Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Gregg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. I brought on Jim Sullivan to help the litigators out there move into the 21st century. eDiscovery via AI, artificial intelligence. I know there's a lot of you out there, my age, 50s, 60s, and you're like, I don't know. Is this passing me by? Do I need to jump aboard? Can I stick with the conventional ways? Jim's going to talk to us about a product that he has created to help all of us. He's also got a book on this issue, a free book. I'm going to route you to his website later on, which apparently has the best domain name ever, eDiscoveryAI.com. Jim, how's it going? I've talked way too much. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
All right. So number one, I'm just going to go like who, what, where, when, how, why, not necessarily in that order. Let's talk about the product. Let's talk about doing eDiscovery via artificial intelligence. You're all in. Should we be all in?
I absolutely believe it. I've been in eDiscovery for a long time now, and we've had different tools, classifications, predictive coding, TAR, call it, whatever you want. And this is truly something special. The ability to tell a machine what you're looking for and have nearly perfect results is just something that we've never seen before. And something we've always kind of talked about, like someday, it's going to be this good, but we have truly reached a point where very, very easily you can simply instruct a computer what you're looking for in natural language and have it be able to identify documents relevant to your production, identify hot docs, identify privilege far better than any human can accomplish at a cost and a speed that's absolutely not comparable. And I don't know, we all know that attorneys are a little bit hesitant to adopt new technology, but I think, this is one of those things that it's just an inevitability that this is going to eventually replace humans for document classification purposes.
All right. So I want you just to assume that all of us that's listening here that are interested in this concept have made no moves to acclimate ourselves. Are we going to a website? Are we going to an app? Walk through just the babiest of baby steps to get me to where I need to be so that I can get to where I really want to be.
Sure. I think the first thing everyone should be doing, whether it's using a tool like ours or any of the other tools for different use cases in the legal industry, is just get comfortable with what AI is. Go on ChatGPT, set up a free account, and start just asking some questions. Have it write a story for you. Have it answer some questions. And then get to a point where you're saying, okay, write me a motion. Write me a brief. Draft me a letter. Start to understand the process where you are asking it questions or asking it to perform certain acts, and it's getting the results back to you. And you can really start to see kind of how it's thinking, how it works, and really how good it is. The first time I was on it, it's like, this is a game changer. And from there, that's when, then you talk to vendors like us or other providers that are creating AI tools and start to get used for different use cases. So, ours is for classifying documents in an eDiscovery setting. So if you have a database, you're using Relativity, you're using a different platform, you can work with us. And ultimately, the first goal should just be, let's test this out. Let's test this out on demo data, on live data, compare it to your reviewers, whatever you can do to make sure that you really see how well it works and prove it. Because, we're not asking anyone to trust us as much as we're asking everyone to just see how well this works on your own. And then we can talk about how we can work it into your processes, into your firm, into your practice in ways to save you time, money, and give you a better result.
All right. So when I think of discovery and requesting documents and all that, I'm sitting here typing, give me all the documents in your file, give me all the documents you don't want to give me, whatever. Is this part of the process that your product covers? Or is this just something where, okay, here are the documents that I got, let me put them through this feeder and it's going to tell me what I have and find me some nuggets, or is it both? Or
You
is
know,
it
if you're familiar with, contract review, in a nutshell, contract review is where you're taking a volume of documents and you're giving them to review attorneys to review and classify for a number of issues or privilege or whatever you're looking for. So you're essentially providing instructions to your review team saying, I want you guys to be looking for these issues. I want to find all documents related to A, B, and C. And so our system kind of replicates that process where instead of sitting down with the review team and saying, here are the types of documents I want you to look for and find, you simply instruct AI in natural language to do the exact same thing. You say, I want to find all documents that talk about iPhone pricing between June of 2022 and April of 2023. I want to find all documents that are reporting on iPhone sales in a certain time period. I'm finding all documents that relate to product roadmaps, different things, and just just like you would put together a review protocol explaining to your reviewers what it is you're looking for, we just enter that into the machine. The system understands what that means and what you're looking for, and then it reviews all the documents just like a person would, and will tell you which one of them fall in each of the classifications. So if you want to find your hot docs, you say, find me documents where an internal party in our organization suggested that we should artificially inflate the prices of product X. It understands that sentiment. It understands the language that you're using. If you say, find me documents where someone manipulates the price, it's able to understand what that actually means. So it is very similar to using a human review team, instructing them on what you're looking for and having them review documents one at a time. But now AI is doing it for you just way faster and way more accurately. And it's summarizing every document for you too, so you get a nice summary. And it's going to provide you explanations as to why the document gets classified. So when I say I'm looking for documents that are about, pricing of an iPhone, it will explain this document's relevant because it discusses, a certain element of that's going to explain exactly why it made that classification choice.
All right. So I think that, obviously I can't speak for all the lawyers or whatever, but to some degree, I think that artificial intelligence in the legal space has been pretty much out there. I'm going to say for a year, maybe. I'm sure it's been more than a year, but for people like me, all right, we started to hear, oh yeah, no, it can really help and all this. And people are showing us examples. And then all of a sudden we heard about that one case where somebody filed a brief and there was all these citations and hallucinations. So a lot of us were like, you see, it is only trouble. So tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how that one mistake, which seems to be on everybody's mind, just as an outlier, forget about it and move forward, right?
That, and you're right. That news comes out and then it sets the whole industry back, 6 months because everyone says, ho, 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 I can't be that one. And, it's just like if I'm an 8th grader and I'm creating a report on something, I copy it off the internet and then I submit it to my teacher and the teacher says, this is wrong. I can't say, oh, it's not my fault. It's, I pulled it from here. It's that fault. Where this is, because you're using AI does not relieve you of any obligation to do your job correctly. So if AI is creating a document for you with citations, you must review every single word that is created, verify it, and make sure every citation is correct. Because when you're using AI-generated material in your briefs and your motions and whatever you're filing, you are the one that's responsible for every single piece of it. The fact that it was created by AI does not give you any outs if it's inaccurate. So, I think that most people know this, and I think this is why we're not seeing a huge, we're only seeing 1 or 2 instances, but, you would know that if I go and I have AI create a motion for me, and I file that motion, I am solely responsible for every single word that's in that motion. Just like if a secretary, just as a paralegal did it, just as a law student did it, you are filing, you're putting your name on it, you're taking responsibility for that. So there should never be a time, whether a paralegal writes your motions, whether someone else writes it, that you're submitting material that you haven't reviewed, that you haven't verified, that you haven't looked at, and you've actually verified the citations are real. So I just see that, most lawyers are going to understand that you cannot take content that was generated by any other system or any other person and submit it as your own work unless you're confident that you verified the accuracy of that and you can actually stand by what's submitted. And I don't think that's new. I don't think that this is a shock to anyone. But if you have AI generate a document for you and you submit that document blindly to the courts, you are making a mistake, and you should know that that's not a practice that you would do, and that's not really a risk that you should have to be concerned with, because you'd never do that.
All right, so let me put you to the test and this product to the test. And my main question on this particular topic is, has it been tested? All right, so you've given us an example where you're going to look through all these documents to find pricing from a certain year, time period, or whatever. Have you actually sat down and said, all right, we're going to do it with the AI program, and then we're going to go old school and have somebody who's like perfectly analyzing it, do it, and to see, are they matching up? Are they close? Is it, or is this going to be something like, all right, well, we start off with this product, we find what we find, but then we're going to have to do it anyway. We're going to have to make sure it did it right for us.
No, I mean, of course, we need to verify the accuracy of the results. We need to confirm that the AI is correct. We're not blindly relying on anything ever. And that's important, because nobody should be doing that. And what you just described is exactly the process you use, where you have AI review a volume of documents. You test your prompts. There's a process to get there, make sure we have everything sound. But then it's always being done where we're taking a subject matter expert, they're reviewing a sample of those documents, they're making each decision independently without looking at the AI's classifications, and we're actually scoring it to see how accurate it is versus that subject matter expert that is, perfect, who's taking the time to really meticulously look through each document. And we're calculating, basically the accuracy. We're calculating the recall of what percentage of the relevant documents were accurately returned, and the precision for every return document, what percentage are actually relevant. And so we're putting together those calculations, and we know what those numbers look like with human reviews. We know that humans are, able to recall 70% of relevant material. Precision might be slightly higher. We know that old, predictive coding tools might have 70 or 80% recall, might be slightly better than humans. And now we're seeing with AI, we're at 96, 98% recall. Oh. And the number of documents that we're missing has completely changed as well, where that 4% that's being missed, with predictive coding, when you're missing, 20% of the relevant documents, you're missing a lot of good stuff. With reviewers, when you're missing 20%, 30% of the documents, you're missing things across the board. A lot of it's just human error missing things. But with AI, when you're missing 4% of the relevant documents, it's because the documents are right on that border. And, maybe they're, marginally relevant, maybe they're not. And the system has made a determination that's different than the subject matter expert, but it's not missing the obvious open hot documents. It's missing the borderline documents, which is something we've never seen before and way different than the analysis has ever been in the past. But ultimately, yes, we are able to statistically verify the accuracy of the result every single project we're using this on, and prove that it's significantly better than any human or any other alternative that we can use.
All right, so you mentioned contracts as being one type of, legal process or litigation or legal issue that would apply in this situation. What else? I mean, what's like the best case uses for this? Is it antitrust, patent, medical records across the board?
We've still have not been able to really stump it on any given issue. It's a subject matter expert on just about everything. When we're trying to classify documents, you're describing what you're looking for. Find all documents that talk about pricing of a certain product, whatever it is. It can look at a document and determine whether or not that document contains material that you're looking for. It understands the sentiment, understands the context. It doesn't get mixed up by misspelled words. And so that really falls, as long as you can explain it, it falls within just about any category of documents. So we've used it on, simple projects. We've used it on insurance claim projects. We've used it, one of the ones that we had the best results on were a very, very complex commercial litigation regarding interest rate manipulation. But ultimately, you're describing what you want and it's providing what you're describing. And so, as long as we're able to describe it, it's going to have a good job at returning what you're looking for.
And how long is this? It's a product, right? How long has the product been in existence?
So we launched our product in July of last year, which was much earlier than a lot of these have been out. Some of the other competing products kind of were announced shortly after then, and they're still kind of in beta testing mode and have been using it. So there are a number of other large organizations that are working on this as well. Some tools have started to come out for testing and kind of started to be available, where ours has been in production for a while now. But as the industry moves, we're a little bit beholden to some of the larger players and their timelines. So, we're starting to see the traction really start picking up now after Legal Week in February. The number of people that have expressed interest just skyrocketed. People are now starting to work towards that process, understanding this is inevitable. This is something we want to be a part of. This is something we want to use, but we're not just going to use it. We're going to go through a process of vetting different tools, testing them out. What you just described, where we take a matter that's been reviewed by a human or a group of humans in the past, and then we have AI run across it and we compare the results. Every time we've done that, the AI significantly beat the human reviewers.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that, that you're going through a process of testing this out yourself on real cases. And then once you're comfortable and say, okay, this is the process we want to use, now we have to go through all those internal processes of training your team to make sure that they're able to understand and support it. If you're a vendor, we have to train, your sales team so you can go out there and talk about it knowledgeably. But, we're going through those progressions and we're heading in the right direction across the board.
All right. And so the future, you got this product, you're telling me it's been around 9-10 months. I'm like, God, is this going to be something where 4 months from now, there's going to be a completely different version. I'm going to have to relearn it. The old thing is, goodbye, see you later. Or like, what is the future of this product?
Yeah. And I kind of look back at, predictive coding tools and technologies that came out about 2010, where we were using machine learning to classify documents based on a trainer, and how that kind of evolved over time and how the adoption rate grew over time. And I see a lot of similarities where we start with people that are starting to get comfortable with it, starting to, make it part of their practice, and then start getting more and more comfortable, with using it where they start adapting in more things. So I think we're going to see that, predictive coding did take about 5 years before it really, from when it was created to when it really started seeing some adoption and, some of the case law that came out supporting it. I think we're going to see that same process. It's just going to be a lot faster. I don't know if it's going to be 1 year, if it's going to be 2 years, if it's going to be 3 years, but we're moving in that direction. And when we talk about, there are going to be different tools and different things that come out, but I don't think they're going to be fundamentally different. They're just going to be improvements on what we have now. So now, as large language models get better and better, it's just going to be the same process, except the results are just going to be better as you go. It's just going to be faster. It's just going to be cheaper as you go. So, I have a hard time envisioning a process that would be easier than this. I have 1 million documents. I have to satisfy my request for production. I have to find documents related to all of these topics. What's the easiest way that I could possibly do that? And now with machine learning, where I have to train a learning model and I have to use a subject matter expert to train positive and negative examples, it gets really confusing. I can't imagine a scenario that's easier than you tell it what you want and you click a button and all of your docs are reviewed perfectly. I mean, short of reading your mind, how is it really, how can we even get simpler than that? So I think the evolution is going to be more about speed and accuracy being improved over time, as well as the costs coming down. And that's going to be a big factor as well.
So that's my next question was when you said, that this is better than the human process, is that in terms of accuracy? And I'm assuming speed, it's probably far faster than, what we could do.
Like accuracy, we've already talked. We're finding 95% of the relevant documents and only missing marginal docs. Reviewers are consistently missing 30% of docs across the board. That's just not, and I think that right there is why this will work. That piece is what matters. Without that piece, this is not viable. The second piece is the speed. We can review 1 million docs in a day. And that's going to only scale up dramatically. That's just, kind of not a comparison. And then cost. Right now, we're looking at about a cost of about half of the cost of a human review. And like I said, that price is certainly going to come down. Right now, the technology is expensive. Large language models take a tremendous amount of processing power. So the costs are much higher than what a lot of people see with some technologies. But when you compare it to human review, it is significantly lower. And it's just a matter of time before it, that decreases as well.
All right. So the legal space, I look at the legal space, 2 things: litigation, transactional work. Both, this applies to both, right? We're not just talking about content.
Whatever you need, yeah. And, For the most part, the real best use case is trying to satisfy your, legal obligation to produce relevant material. I have a large volume of docs, and I need to find out what is relevant to my case that I need to turn over to the other side.
Yeah.
So in all instances of that, this is an absolute fantastic use case. Other use cases, in that same vein is if we're looking for our hot docs, our key docs, our docs that we want for depositions or exhibits, fantastic at identifying that as well. Now, there's a couple things that it's not, and there's other tools that actually are really good at this, is tools for investigations and other things. So if you have 1 million documents and you need to know who are the major players in this, who is responsible for building product X, who is, doing this, and you're kind of just looking at a holistic approach of like, here's my question of my data set, help me understand it better. That's other tools are really well equipped for that. That's not something we have, but it's definitely technology that's out there that is fantastic. And another really good use case of AI is being able to answer questions, and then all of the other use case we talk about, being able to prepare, motions, have it draft, any briefs, having it draft anything, having it organize your documents, a lot of other use cases in the legal industry. And ours is just really, really focused on that one case of I need to produce documents relevant to my requests, and I need to find them and review them as quickly as possible in a defensible way.
All right. So you're talking, this is applicable to the individual one-person auto accident attorney on both sides, both the plaintiff and the defendant. You're talking about big time, large corporations, small boutique firms, everybody.
Yeah, if you have, you have 10,000 documents and you have a car accident, a small personal injury case or something, it's not, 10,000 docs, to do the math, if you're doing, 50 docs an hour, 100 docs an hour, that takes a significant amount of time. 100 hours of doc review, where now you can describe, all right, what is it that you're looking for? What is your smoking gun document looking for? What is your actual, what types of things you're looking for? Entered in, hit enter, and it reviews all of them. And now for a personal injury case and some of those, we now have the ability to review images as well. So you can say, find me all images of car crashes, find me images of injuries, find me all images that they have where a person's, took a picture of their, scratches or their broken bones or their casts or whatever it is that they have. That can be found just as easily. Same with audio. If you have cases where, find me all, audio files that are talking about specific issues. I'm doing a call center and I need to find, times where someone was discussing a certain topic, and it can identify those just as easily.
All right. So
and again, also summarize them, provide explanations for why. So much more than just like, yep, this is relevant, but it's going to summarize the image or audio file or document and explain why exactly it is relevant.
now, have you heard of situations where people are using the product during a trial when, all of a sudden you're like, oh, where were all these documents? Or a deposition where they're bringing a bunch of documents to the deposition and you're sitting here trying to ask questions and they're giving you, yay high of documents and you're like, I'd love to be able to, digest this all in the next 10 seconds. But is that actually an application?
Yeah, we can, the summarize feature is actually really good for that, for summarizing depositions and being able to quickly understand what, what's important. And honestly, more importantly, you could, query those depositions for specific topics and say, are any of these discussing X, Y, and Z, or, other things, as well as just summarizing them, giving you the ability to quickly understand kind of what the general content of that is.
Yeah. All right. So Jim Sullivan, who are you? This is a new product. Why should I believe anything that you just said? Why should I trust you? People are going to be paying me big money to go through documents and I'm relying on you. Why should I?
That's a good question. Just so me personally, it's been amazing because it's like every piece of this is just aligned with everything that I've done in my career up to this point. I got out I got out of law school. First thing I did was doc review, which is a very tedious, painful process that a lot of people experience. So that's, I kind of saw that and how it works and understand that.
You lived it.
I lived that and I lived the pain. And I will tell you, anytime I'm asking someone like, hey, we need you to be a subject matter expert, review this sample of documents, I just I'm sorry that you have to do this because I know how much this sucks.
Yeah.
But from there, I actually started at Kroll On Track about 2008, 2009. And all I did was help people use technology to assist in their doc reviews. So we started using predictive coding when that came out. We went through that growth phase of understanding how predictive coding worked. And I supported over 1,000 predictive coding cases in a decade. And so, what I really experienced in that support is listening to every person telling me what they're trying to accomplish and understanding the shortcomings of every tool that we have. So I really have a good grasp at what are the problems that we have that people are trying to solve, what tools are available now to solve them, and what do we need to be able to solve these other problems. And so that kind of got me comfortable with this space, understanding the technology, understanding the defensibility, understanding the processes. And then I left Kroll on Track, which right after the merger with eDiscovery, and I went out to run my own business, and I actually ran a software business for a while that we then started using AI tools. And we have AI tools that will identify relevant social media posts for all of our clients and scan them, and it's classifying them in a lot of the same ways that we're using for documents. And so it's just I've been really just fortunate to have everything that's been up to here. Is like, building AI software, supporting predictive coding and technology projects, understanding doc review. It's a really great progression of skill sets for this one thing, where some of the other businesses I've run, I just look at and think, there's a lot of things that, I was kind of figuring out as we went here, where this is all something that we've been doing for so long that it's just become second nature. So, I feel like this is just the really perfect fit for me, as well as some other people on our team have similar experiences and backgrounds. And I think we are really uniquely positioned to not only build technology that people can use to solve problems, but support it and understand the needs of the industry to make sure that you're comfortable using it, you're understanding how to use it, and you're making sure that we're putting together, defensible protocols, processes that are repeatable, that are saving money, and that are going to stand up to, the most rigorous scrutiny.
Nice. All right. So you mentioned a show in February. I'm assuming that was a legal tech show.
Correct.
All right. And I want to end this program basically asking you, what are the types of concerns that people have brought to your attention when they're considering this product that we haven't gone over yet? I want to kind of make sure I'm trying to touch all bases and not
Yeah,
leave.
no, it's interesting because we've given over 150 demos in the last 6 months, and people ask a lot of the same questions. It's there are the concerns are very universal across the board. And the first thing everyone always says is security. How do I know that my data is safe? How do I know my data is secure? I heard that some people, I heard an example where they used data to train a model that then got exposed to a different client. And the thing I'm going to say on that one always is, this is no different than any tool we have. You cannot be an attorney and put client data into free tools. You can't go to Google Translate and paste your client's data and try to translate a document. We know this. We can't do that. And that's the same with AI. If you go to ChatGPT and you create a free account and you paste your client's data in, that is not ever going to be secure. We need to be using enterprise level secure tools that are not using the data to train any models, not making the data publicly available and all those things. But that's not something that's new in this industry, not new to AI. That's something that's always been the case. So that comes up a lot. Whether it's going to be defensible or not. And I just think that ultimately, we've been using predictive coding for 15 years now. This is no different than predictive coding. You're instructing the machine what you're looking for. The machine is giving you those predictions. And, we saw with the Sullivan ruling that courts are willing to accept this as long as you're validating your processes, just like we described. The other question that just comes up is, predictive coding hasn't really gotten much adoption. Why would I think that this is going to be something that replaces contract reviews? And I think that that's a question that no one really has an answer for. But I see a lot of really significant differences with this. And they say predictive coding hasn't seen a lot of adoption. And it's used on about 40% of cases, which I would say is a significant adoption at the very least. But predictive coding came out 15 years ago. This was a completely different time. In those last 15 years, we've learned a lot of things. People have, the younger generation has started coming in. People are more, accepting of technology. But the big difference is this is just so much easier. When I used to, we used to give classes on predictive coding. It would be a 6-hour session to walk you through how it works, how you train the model, difference between training documents, testing documents, validation sets, control sets, all of these things. And it was a bit overwhelming. And I think a lot of the, fear of use was just a lot of the discomfort of, well, if I don't really understand this, I don't feel comfortable using it because I'm going to have to defend it someday. And I don't really feel like I'm in a position to do that. Where the simplicity of this and the ease of use is going to be a huge differentiator. And I tell people, it's like, we're at a situation where you can tell it what you want and push a button and your entire review is done. It's not going to get easier than that. And when people see that, they're not going to go back to using humans. It's far too good. It's the best thing we've ever seen. It's such an incredible leap in technology from predictive coding and the accuracy and the speed and ease of use that I just don't see any way that this is going to be something that people can avoid for very long.
All right.
I think that's probably about all of the major concerns that we see, but
yeah. And all right. So what's the best way to talk to you?
I mean, on our website, you can go there, you can schedule a demo. There's a button in the corner, click that, schedule your demo. You can also read the book there. I mean, the cool thing about the book is I actually wrote a book on predictive coding 10 years ago and with Tony Reichenberger, and that book is complicated. You read it and you have to sit down, you have to understand it. Just wrote a book on AI doc review. You could probably read the whole thing in an hour. My grandma read it recently and she called and said she understood a lot of it, which I didn't know she was reading, but you'll see that it is really like this is not the same. This is the simplicity on this is really incredible. And I think that once you start getting comfortable with it, you'll see. And the book really, it does a good job answering all these questions about defensibility, about security, about all these things that people want to know about, hallucinations. How do I make sure that the system is telling me what's true and correct? And that's, really something that you could learn about quickly because this is not nearly as complicated as a lot of things before.
All right, last question, I promise. So, hey, I got a bunch of documents I got to review, but they're all in Chinese, Russian, Spanish. Are you guys there yet, or is that going to happen?
No problem at all.
No problem.
I will tell you that right there is what predictive coding with foreign language was my nightmare. You have to teach the classifier in every single language. You have to train it. And what happens is people give up because it ends up being too complicated. It's too messy. They don't want to go through. They have to find subject matter experts in Russian and Korean and Chinese. And what happens is they end up giving up and then sort of going around to a process. And with AI, you just put it in there and it understands it. It will summarize it in English. It will classify the document correctly, and it will give you an explanation in English as to why. And it works with any common language. Probably not gonna work with Swahili, but every language you mentioned nails it, knocks it out of the park. Right now we actually have a couple clients in California that are using it exclusively on Korean language docs and are having a fantastic experience. So nice. That's one of the biggest differentiators is just, predictive coding with foreign language is nightmare. Predictive coding or foreign language with AI, it's just the same as English. It doesn't care what language it is. And it's really incredible.
All right. Well, this has been an outstanding program. A lot of information. I think some of you might still be, I'm not sure. I'm fine. I'm doing all right. Go to the website, download the book, 1 hour. Okay. In 1 hour, read it. It's readable. You're going to, it's going to transform your practice. And maybe you need to get to the point where you're not doing your own discovery and you're having not an employee, but your AI tool doing it. No, of course you're going to have an employee, review it, and you're going to review it as well. But that'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase with Jim Sullivan from eDiscoveryAI.com. I want to make sure I got this right. Jim has a passion for analytics and calculates recall and precision metrics in his sleep. Okay. So, hey, at least you're sleeping.
I mean, I don't know if that's a brag or something that you should be more ashamed of, but yeah, I mean, been doing this a really long time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it, folks. Subscribe, rate, review. Let me know what you think. If you're interested, the show notes are going to show you how to, if you listen, you're going to know how to talk to Jim, but the show notes will also give you all the information. Jim, thank you for coming on to the show and have a good day.
Thanks for having me.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.